my aha moment occurred when I was 26 years old. Came home from an ordinary day of work and turned on the news, and the lead story was a Phoenix police officer named Mark Atkinson had just been shot and killed in the line of duty. And, that's something that happens, unfortunately, on average 150 times a year all across the country. But this one was a Phoenix officer, and it happened in a precinct where I grew up, and it had a deep impact on me, and I immediately went and applied little demon in there. And, we all have our angels and demons, and I put a post on Instagram a long time ago, and I had counted up the days at one point of how long I'd been on the earth, and it was like 17,000 and something. And I wrote about this very topic, that every morning I wake up, and on one shoulder I've got my angel, and on one shoulder I've got the demon. And I'm like, you know what? You guys do this every day. You go at it. Let me know. I already know how it's going to work out. The angel right now is 17,000-0. It won every single day. But I think that's what that inner voice, it is there. You are so right about that, because I say this in my speeches at the very beginning. When you lay your head down the pillow at night, I don't care where you are, I don't care who you're sleeping next to, you are 100% alone. Trying to go to sleep, closing your eyes.
What I'm seeing here is that you have lived a life of obligation from a perspective of honor, meaning good of the group before the good of the self, right?
Yes.
Which is a very altruistic way to be, right? Now, that life of obligation that I'm hearing has also created a tug of war for you. I'm hearing the tug of war, right? Where it's, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do the next. But it's very easy for you to say, I want to do all these things, right?
Yeah.
Because of the honor side. So that's where there's this unique give and take, right? Like, I have obligations. The obligations cause me some stress, but based on my sense of honor, I'm good with them. Like, okay, give me more. So that's, I think, the core of your strategy, what I would call your strategies of survival, right? Your trauma. That core piece is this sense of obligation with honor.
Today on Capital T Truth, Larry Yatch sits down with Jason Schechterle, a former police officer whose life changed forever after surviving one of the most catastrophic burn injuries in law enforcement history. But this episode goes far beyond the fire. It's a raw conversation about identity, honor, obligation, survival, and that hidden weight carried by those who spend their lives protecting others. Together, these two men unpack a powerful truth. Sometimes the very strategies that make us resilient are also the ones keeping us isolated. This is not just a story about surviving a tragedy, it's about what happens after the applause fades, the lights go down, and you're just left alone with your own thoughts. So if you've ever carried responsibility so heavily that you forgot how to receive support for yourself, this conversation, it's the one that will stay with you.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to Capital T Truth with Larry, and we've got an amazing guest today, Jason. Jason is going to be a different experience than what we've had in some of our previous guests, in that he actually has a very traditionally accepted trauma, right? So many of the guests that we have on here don't really have that traditional traumatic experience in their background, yet we find that trauma still lives in their life because we define trauma in such a different way. What most people think of trauma when they think of trauma is the experience, some sort of horrific experience, which Jason definitely had a horrific experience earlier in his life. Similarly to me, in that whenever you hear that you're a Navy SEAL that has been in combat for 10 years, everyone pretty much accepts that there have been horrible experiences in our lives. But ultimately, if in the experience that is so traumatic, you die, you don't have any trauma, which is super unique, right? If the experience causes the trauma and you have the experience but you die and you have no trauma, we're actually looking under the wrong rock. The reason trauma exists in our life is based on survival, not the experience. And that's an important distinction, because as soon as we know that trauma is dependent on survival, it gives us the understanding that trauma is actually just the lesson of survival. It's a lesson of survival that lives in our subconscious. And as long as the environment we're in stays the same. So the lessons I learned as a SEAL in combat, as long as I stay in combat, they're extremely useful. They actually keep me alive. And because they live in a subconscious level, I'm not aware of them. But as soon as I change environments and go home, or I start a business, all of a sudden these lessons that were learned in combat are being applied in the wrong environment. And once, when they were true in combat, they're no longer true in these new environments. And when we live to an untruth, we create stress in our life, and that's post-traumatic stress. And so this podcast is all about being able to unearth these subconscious strategies of survival that both are our superpower, but also are our kryptonite, create our limitations. And so this episode should be very interesting because Jason, in talking prior to the show, when you hear about his story, you'll definitely see where there was a massive traumatic experience. But he shared, he's always wondered why he hasn't suffered from the post-traumatic stress disorder that he's seen in so many other first responders, veterans, and he hasn't suffered from that. And so I think it's going to be really interesting diving into this to see, well, what strategies of survival did he come up with in surviving this amazing experience that he went through, and how has that become his superpower, and can we see if we can find where it might be a limitation as well. So Jason, welcome to the show. Thank you for sitting through that little introduction, and I'm really excited to jump into this with you.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited for this. This is going to be a first for me to do a podcast like this, and I'm looking forward to what is unearthed.
Do you mind giving just, and I would imagine based on your speaking and your book, everything that you've done, you spent a lot of time talking about the experience you went through and getting through it, as well as you had a massive fight after the experience, not just in your health, but with Ford. And so do you mind giving just a brief overview of kind of those things? And that's just going to serve as a foundation for us. And then we're going to dive into your mind and your subconscious.
Okay, of course. Yeah, so I live, born and raised Phoenix, Arizona, and just one of those kids, great childhood, wouldn't trade a thing about it. Thankful I didn't grow up in the world of social media and all the BS that is affecting the younger generations now. And great parents, siblings, friends, played sports, did all the things, and just always kind of felt like a call toward a life of service. I didn't know what. I was always in love with any uniform. It could be scrubs, military, police, fire. I didn't care. And now I've since learned you can serve. You don't need to be wearing any type of uniform. You can always be serving. And later in my teenage years, really started to gravitate toward law enforcement. So I graduated high school, and I ended up I was pretty good at golf. So I went to a small school to play golf, and then that I just lost interest after about 6 months, realized I wasn't as good as I thought I was, and maybe there wasn't going to be a big future in that. Wanted some structure and discipline in my life, still having that thought of I'm going to be a police officer, and not just a police officer, but a Phoenix police officer.
Okay.
And so I joined the Air Force, and it was right around the time of the first Gulf War.
Yep.
I was starting my second semester at college, and that went off, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to remember the pictures, the original shock and awe. I was like, Damn, that's pretty awesome. But I also knew I'm not crazy enough to join the Marines or Army. and do that. So
Much
I'm
less the SEALs, right? Like,
well, I'm like,
we're a
Air
special
Force,
breed of screwed up.
it's a special breed, and it's permanent for life. But that is a brotherhood that's pretty cool. But I knew the Air Force. Better food, better dorms. The girls are prettier. I'm like, yeah, I think I'll do that one. So joined the Air Force with the intention of just doing the 4 years,
Yep.
and got to go to some great places. I was in Korea, and I did 6 months at Guantanamo Bay for the 1994 Haitian refugee crisis. So I got a little bit of real world experience on what happens when you're dealing with NATO and getting in fights all the time, and not firefights, nothing like you've been through, but it was definitely not what I was expecting as a 21-year-old kid. But did my time and honorably discharged. Had met and married my wife Susie very young. Had a couple of kids very young. So when I got home, the thought of being a police officer pretty quickly faded out of my mind because it was just a thought. It wasn't a calling. And as you're well aware, there are a handful of jobs that if they're not callings, you shouldn't be doing them. So,
or you won't do them for long.
Yes. So I got a really great job doing working for one of our power companies out here, and feeling like I was really serving the community in the midst of the storms or power outages, people on lung machines or whatever, air conditioning go on. It just always felt good, and I was making a great salary. So I was cruising through life because that's how simple it is, right? You just pick your path and it goes in a nice straight line.
Yeah, well, not for me.
Well, little did I know.
Yeah.
I got my aha moment occurred when I was 26 years old. Came home from an ordinary day of work and turned on the news, and the lead story was a Phoenix police officer named Mark Atkinson had just been shot and killed in the line of duty. And that's something that happens, unfortunately, on average 150 times a year all across the country. But
Yep.
This one was a Phoenix officer, and it happened in a precinct where I grew up, and it had a deep impact on me. And I immediately went and applied. I was super proud to make it through the process. I mean, there was
Do you mind
probably
if I interrupt you for a second?
Please.
So, yeah, I can't help myself. Uh, Very interesting what you just said. So you're living the good life, right? Straight line, everything's going pretty good, right? And then you see a news story where a police officer is shot and killed, right? So they lose their life in the line of duty, and that's your inspiration to become a police officer. So I'd be interested to hear what is the if we slow those moments down, right? You go back to that moment, watching that show, and we slow those moments down. What's going through your head? What's the narrative that goes through your head? Because a normal person doesn't see a police officer shot and decide, I want to do that. And so there had to have been some narrative, some things that were going through your head in that moment. I'd love to hear that in kind of slow motion. What were the little pieces, the narratives that went through?
I think the little pieces had been building up for years. I had obviously a little maturity at being 26. I was a father and a husband at a young age. I was working a very important job that required a very focused skill set.
Yep.
And I always recognized, no matter what I was doing, whether it was when I was in the Air Force, when I was working with the power company, I just always had this subconscious, looking back on it now, like you asked, that all of these jobs, all these careers, they don't start with me, and they're not going to end with me. So looking back on it now, when I replay it in slow motion, it was a combination of, Mark he did not die in vain. I'm going to make sure that he left that seat better than he found it, which I know was his intention. His intention was not to go to work that day and get shot and not go home to his wife and
Right.
6-month-old baby at the time. But there's a legacy there. And if I can wear that same uniform and I can always say his name, I can always tell people, this is my why. Everybody needs a why. And that is, I think, what the pull was like, because it was you have to be doing this job and you have to be wearing that uniform. And
So
that's what, I mean, I went literally the very next day and applied.
okay, so let me then ask another question. So what I'm hearing you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that here is this person, Mark, right? This human that chose to wear this uniform and serve others, right? And in the service of others, he lost his life.
Yes.
And for you, what I'm hearing you say is that became meaningful, right? It became meaningful that this person who was serving others lost his life in doing that. And then what I'm hearing you say is you felt an obligation to step in to continue to honor his sacrifice, as well as I hear honor the role. Am I correct in what I heard?
You are correct. And thank you for saying it like that, because I've actually never used that word even in my private thoughts. But I guess that it was a sense of obligation. And that's why I did it so quickly. I mean, I saw this news story and it was just an instant feeling and need. And I told my wife, I said, I'm applying for the Phoenix Police Department. And I went the very next day and did that. So maybe it was out of an obligation.
There's two words that I said that I think are critical. And I want to hear your thoughts on them. What do these words bring up to you? First was the one obligation, like you had an obligation to do it. I could also say a calling, like you were pulled to do it, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So then that's one. The second one is honor, right? To honor his sacrifice. What does that mean to you?
To honor his sacrifice means that his death was not in vain. He's not just a picture on a wall. And unfortunately, in the military and law enforcement, there are so many over the years that you tend to, memories fade, people move on in retirement and deal with their part of it differently. Names don't get talked about as much. So just knowing every day that I could put on that uniform, get in the same kind of car, go on the same calls in the same city, that was a way to honor him. That, hey, I've got the watch now, and I get to go do this in a way on your behalf. And of course, I'm serving the community. I'm honoring my own last name by doing the job with integrity and doing it the right way. I want to serve my city that I grew up in, but that's what honor to me means, is all the people who came before you, and that has played such an important role in the rest of my life when we get into the fire and the work I did against Ford and all that. It was in honor and obligation of the people who went before me, and I have high expectations of the people who come after me. And when I go down and teach at the academy, I mean, these young recruits, they get an in-your-face version. I'm not quite the cheerful, nice guy that I am on these shows and in my public speaking. They get a harder version, because I have high expectations that you're not going to dishonor anybody who's gone before you and sacrificed things like I have, or the ultimate sacrifice, as to use the cliche. But and the calling, of course, like I said, it's just one of those jobs. Being a teacher, a nurse, being in the military, in a way that you want to one of our biggest heroes in the state of Arizona, as you know, is Pat Tillman.
Mm-hmm.
And to give up his multi-million-dollar lifestyle football, to look his wife in the eye and say, I got to go do this. I got to fight for this country. And then he loses his life. And the very definition of a calling, like you have no choice. This is who you are, who you have to be, and how you have to serve. And that's part of, I guess, our own identity. We have to figure that out at some point, like what we're going to do. I'm always amazed by how many people I've run into that say, oh, I hate my job. Can't believe I have to go to work today, this 40-hour week grind. And it's like, well, then you're just not doing you're not doing the right job. And I feel bad that you never discovered the thing that makes you who you are, makes you why you are. I think the why to me is always more important than the who. So yeah, you hit it right on the head with the obligation part. And I've never, moving forward, that makes me smile because I'll have a new
we'll see. I might. I've heard some, as I would say, some traumas, some strategies in your language that we're going to pull out. So we're going to see. We'll see where we end on this one.
All right.
The two things that are sticking out to me, and see, like I said, I can't help myself. We'll get to this story later, but we might not even get to your core story because this is going to be more important. The two things that I'm hearing in your language is obligation and honor. And so honor to me, and let me share my distinction for it. You tell me if you agree or not. Honor to me is living to a code of behavior in which the good of the group comes before the good of the individual. What is that? Does that resonate for you?
Oh, it certainly does. It's you are, again, no matter what you're doing, you are part of something bigger than yourself, and you should have a desire, a dedication, and intentionality of serving others. And you leave a person, you leave the day, you leave the seat, the meeting, the career, everything that you do in life, you leave it better than you found it. Sometimes that's in a moment. Sometimes that's over a course of a 20, 30-year career. Sometimes it's over the course of a lifetime. So, yeah, I feel very strongly about honor. And I'm sure we have slightly different versions because we've done very different
things. Not really,
things.
because what I'm hearing very strongly in you is that the concern for self is very low. The concern for the group for you is very high, right?
Yes.
And that's the key part to it, is that you're saying that it is, what I'm hearing you say is it is our obligation to act in a way that leaves the group better without concern for self. That's what I'm hearing. Is that and that's accurate, right?
That is accurate. But again, that has to be a personal feeling, because like when I talk to somebody like you, knowing what you've done at the highest levels in places I've never been to, had no interest in going, fought in wars, that is an honor that you did for your team, your family, our country, and for my family, even though you don't know us. But you did not have an obligation to do that for me. You had to have the personal obligation, I believe, to do it for the greater good. Now, maybe the obligation to your team members that you were there with, deployed, that's a little, we could really get into the weeds on that word obligation as we bring it up. But so I think we agree on a lot of it, but might look at it a little different on the selfish obligation, which I don't think there's anything wrong with using the word selfish
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, that doesn't mean that I'm just all about me. I'm obviously not. But the selfish obligation for me is going to vary from the selfish obligation that you have, because you were not obligated to me. But I am part of this country. I am
Yeah.
an American, and you became one of our most elite special ops people that so few have ever done in this world, in this life. You did that out of an obligation to yourself and a team, and then a bigger cause. So yeah, there's just little varying degrees on that, I think, and they're
And
fascinating to me.
yeah, and what's interesting to me is we speak about this very similarly, whereas I speak about police officers the same way you're speaking about me, from the perspective of, if I had a choice to be a police officer or a SEAL, I choose SEAL every day of the week, because uh, for two big reasons. Um, for police officers, every time you show up, someone doesn't want you to be there
Mm-hmm.
all the time. Like, no one's
Every,
like, "Oh, great, you're here," right?
right.
And so that to me would be horrible. Like, that would not be a very pleasant every day. And even when, like, for me, I very much value police officers, as I'll speak to why in a second. But when I get pulled over, I'm scared. Like, I don't want to get a ticket. And so that same sense of, even when I honor these men and women that put on the uniform and protect us locally, I still feel scared when they show up, right? So no matter what, anywhere you go, people don't really want you to be there. And I got to shoot the bad guys, right? And I got to blow things up. Like, it's a lot harder for you guys here. That's why I'm like, I will gladly be a SEAL over being a police officer. But what's nuts is I couldn't have done my job as a SEAL without police officers, based on
Um,
the fact that I couldn't have left my family here in the States alone 300 days a year without knowing that they're safe. And the only reason they're safe is because of you guys. And so
that's
for me,
beautiful.
I 100% speak of it the same way. Like, you put on your uniform and protect us in what is one of the most caustic environments in the world, and you do it to provide safety for all of us, which enabled me to go protect the country. I couldn't have done my job without police, first responders, fire. Uh,
Thank you. That's beautiful for you to say that.
yeah,
That I've never heard that before, and it makes complete sense. Yeah, your family can call 911, and we're going to be there and take care of them, and you're going to get a phone call knowing everything is safe and sound, and we go back to our
especially
business.
being,
So,
we're
thank you.
both protectors at heart,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
You
yeah.
you you become police officer to protect and to serve, right? I
Yeah.
became a SEAL to protect and to serve, and a protector at heart couldn't go protect if their family wasn't safe, right? Because it's my
That
primary responsibility to make sure my family's primarily safe. So
100%.
without the family being safe, I couldn't have left. And so that's
Nice.
where, for me, it's, we speak of it the same way. So I like that. So getting back to obligation and honor, something that I'm interested to hear now. You did hold your obligation, like, you held your obligations and you acted with honor. But within that, there's got to be a little voice in the back of your head. Now, this little voice is the mean voice that doesn't say the nice things. What I'm interested to hear, could you give voice to that little voice? What if you hadn't? What if you hadn't held your obligation? What if you hadn't acted with honor? What would that little voice have been saying to you?
I think that little voice would have been saying the word regret, and making that a part of my terminology, a part of my everyday
Identity.
sense. Yes, you should have never left that other job. Look what you did to your family. Look at these injuries that you got. Look how you affected your kids. Look how you left this department one officer short because you can't go to work today. So I think if that little demon in there, and we all have our angels and demons, and I put a post on Instagram a long time ago, and I had counted up the days at one point of how long I've been on the earth, and it was like 17,000 and something, and I wrote about this very topic, that every morning I wake up, and on one shoulder I've got my angel, and on one shoulder I've got the demon, and I'm like, you know what? You guys do this every day. You go at it. Let me know. I already know how it's going to work out. The angel right now is 17,000-0. It won every single day, but I think that's what that inner voice. If you and it is there. You are so right about that, because I say this in my speeches at the very beginning. When you lay your head down the pillow at night, I don't care where you are. I don't care who you're sleeping next to. You are 100% alone. Trying to go to sleep, closing your eyes.
Really?
And you're alone.
Wait. So, and this is where I can't help but jump in. So, say that one more time. What you just said. I'm gonna poke at you on that.
Okay. So, no matter where you are in this world, no matter what you're doing, no matter who you're sleeping next to, when you lay your head down the pillow at night to try and go to sleep, you are 100% alone with your thoughts. And it is the single most dangerous place we will ever be. And we are there all the time.
Now, you use the words, you are 100% alone with your thoughts. Is that true?
I believe it's true simply because I think we have our public lives where they're on display right now for a lot of people. We have our private lives, and then we have our secret lives. And when I say secret lives, I don't mean anything.
Yeah, internal is what I'm hearing you say. Your internal life.
Yeah, things that are so personal that maybe even the people closest to you have no idea some of the thoughts that, I mean, there's some crazy thoughts that go through our minds. Some are like, wow, did I really just think that? So when I say alone, I don't mean that we are alone, forgotten about. People have shut us out. Not in any way. We're not alone physically. A lot of times, a lot of us aren't. I mean, I travel a lot, so yes, I'm physically alone in a hotel room or things like that. But you're not. When I say alone and 100% alone with your thoughts, it's because you're the only one laying there. You're not talking out loud. The person next to you is trying to go to sleep. The dog's going to sleep. The kids are tucked away or they're off at college. Everything is going in a different direction, but you are centered right there. And until you drift off to sleep, it's you and your thoughts. And it's just it's a hell of a place to be for most people. And I don't know about you, but I think for the vast majority, just as a human being, you don't lay there thinking, life is just so perfect, I can't stand it. That's not a thought that's going to go through your mind. You're going to think about, let me make this more personal. I will think about.
Okay, there we go. Good job.
I will think about, did I leave this day better than I found it?
Okay.
How did I try but fail, fall flat on my face? How did I unintentionally hurt somebody? Did I intentionally hurt somebody else? Well, how am I going to make, if I wasted today, now what is even the point tomorrow? Now I got to grapple with getting back on track for that. Or all of a sudden you find yourself thinking about, I got this goal and I got to get there in 3 months. Well, good Lord, bro, it's 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night and you're worried about 3 months from now. Let's just go to sleep And these are just the constant.
It's a battle. So
It
what
is.
I'm hearing for you, and I think we keep this. So for me, do I go to bed and does my subconscious come into my conscious mind with all the obligations that I have, the shortcomings that that I may have run that day, the things that I need to do to make sure that I don't feel regret tomorrow night, right? No, my mind doesn't do that.
Okay.
It has in the past,
Mhm.
but that's not a regular experience for me. Um, that which is, remember, we started talking about our traumas are merely strategies of survival. They're the
Yes.
operating system of the subconscious. That operating system creates truths in our world. What a truth is a way to see the world that you cannot act or think in discord to. So that's an important piece, right? Something is a belief if I believe it, or it's a value, but I can act in discord to it. Right? Like, I believe I'm a good person, but sometimes I act in discord to being a good person. That's a belief. A
Sure.
truth is something that no matter what, I always have to see it that way, and I always have to act in alignment with that. And our traumas create truths that then in some ways serve us, in some ways don't. One of the truths that I'm hearing in yours, right? So this is where we get to what are we hearing in yours is an obligation, right? Obligation becomes a truth, and that I'm hearing that in every way that you see your world and every way you act to hold your obligations. Does that resonate?
It resonates very well. And I think a good way for me to explain that is I spend, and this touches on what you said between the belief and the truth.
Yeah.
I spend a great deal of time out on the road
Yeah.
doing public speaking. I get paid for it. And I'll do my presentation, and you get all the standing ovations, you get the accolades, you get the oh my gosh, you're so strong, and that hero word that I don't really like at all. I mean, I was in a car accident. Stop calling me a hero, considering there are people. I'm talking to a guy.
Sorry, that's bullshit, man.
Well, I mean, I'm talking to a guy that I would call a hero every day, and you would probably tell me, "Will you please shut up?" So,
Yeah,
uh,
so we'll touch on that. Like, this is where we
yeah,
start getting to the limitations. So I'm going to put a pin in that one later. We'll talk about
okay,
talk
okay.
about the hero piece later. So
So,
you're in these speeches,
so that yeah, so I do all these things that in out in the world I'm obviously recognizable,
yeah,
and yeah, I've got this book out, and so I have this very public life,
yeah,
and it is filled with just the being at almost at euphoric levels at times of how you're feeling.
serving.
And then, yesterday is just a great example. Yesterday was my 25th anniversary of my accident. But I had a lot of other things on my mind, right? It was also the 9th anniversary of my dad's death. He died on the
Oh wow,
16th anniversary of my accident. It was the first day of a brand new job for one of my sons who has gone through a serious medical issue and lost his other job 4 months ago. And so I had that on my mind, and I'm in Baltimore. I'm not at home supporting him. So I've got these words coming out of my mouth to do this presentation and do it well. But in my mind, I'm thinking about some of these other things. And that's almost like the constant for me that I orbit around is,
like a war is what I'm
it's fine
hearing.
that I'm a public speaker and I can't help my appearance is recognizable, but I'm still just Jason, and I have responsibilities back at home with the job that I have here, working with a nonprofit for first responders, the responsibility to continue to make our marriage as strong as I can now that we're getting into the later years, the empty nester years, my kids and what they're going through, and checking on my friends, like, hey, oh my gosh, I haven't called this guy in 2 weeks. I need to do a buddy check. So that is what I mean when I say that I have this obligation, and those are the kind of thoughts at night that go through my head. And it's definitely not. I didn't mean to insinuate that it's every single night.
Oh, it isn't. No, I understand.
I'm not thinking about failures, or I'm just going down the checklist of I want to figure out the yeses and the nos. How can I get better? What did I forget? Because I speak from the heart all the time. What did I leave out of this speech? Darn it, that you got to make sure you always have that in, or why did I add this new thing? It was a great success. I'm very proud of the paycheck I got from my family, and now I'm off to doing this. So it's just a constant set of obligations that I carry with me. But I think I always have been like that. And yeah, this is such a, I knew this was going to be an interesting talk, but once I'm starting to get into the weeds of that and look back over, I have a lot more years behind me than I do ahead of me. That's just the reality of it. But that's just always been a constant in my life is the weight. And it's not a bad weight. I don't use that word to mean it holds me back, it slows me down, it weighs me down. It is just a weight that I choose to carry because literally everything,
side, right? Because of the honor side, right? And the selflessness side creates that energy to carry the weight, from what I'm hearing with you.
Yeah. Every single thing in this life, the who and why I am, is because of all the choices that I've made.
Right.
100%. I am exactly who I've chosen to be. I am exactly where I've chosen to be. And I'm talking decisions I made 20 years ago that had an impact. That little, don't discount
turning on the TV when Mark's news report was on.
Exactly.
That decision, right?
And we can always put words on it. We can always talk about fate. We can always talk about destiny. We can always talk about miracles, and God. And on the flip side, it's just like when people say, life sucks, life is hard, I can't handle this. We magnify with adjectives when, it's just life. And if you look at it, you made some choices. You have to have some accountability in this. Some other people have a hand in things, make some choices that you might not necessarily be in control of, but it's beneficial to recognize that those choices were made and had a ripple effect that crossed into your path and joined with your ripples, and it just keeps going like that.
So what I'm seeing here is that you have lived a life of obligation from a perspective of honor, meaning good of the group before the good of the self, right?
Yes.
Which is a very altruistic way to be, right? Now, that life of obligation that I'm hearing has also created a tug of war for you. I'm hearing the tug of war, right? Where it's, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do the next. But it's very easy for you to say, I want to do all these things, right?
Yeah.
Because of the honor side. So that's where there's this unique give and take, right? Like, I have obligations. The obligations cause me some stress, but based on my sense of honor, I'm good with them. Like, okay, give me more. So that's, I think, the core of your strategy, what I would call your strategies of survival, right? Your trauma. That core piece is this sense of obligation with honor. Now, the question that I have for you is, what is the cost of that? What has been the cost for you to live in obligation driven by honor? Because there is some cost there.
I don't know that I've ever felt or seen it as a cost. It's because the fruits of my labor,
Amazing.
the
Yeah.
stress that I do take on, or just comes anytime I have anxiety, fear, get in a bad mood, get off course, whatever. The I guess that that would be the minimal cost, but
There's a bigger one that I'm going to share.
the output, that what little it's costing me to make
Yes.
sure that everybody else around me that I love and care about is better in
Yep.
some way, and I can have a hand in that. So it's almost, I'm trying to think of
Well,
the
it's
opposite
justified.
of a cost. It's
Oh,
I don't want to say it's like I'm getting the pay. It's just it's just worth it to.
that,
It's no different than if I want, if I want a really good steak dinner tonight, and I probably can't really afford this week to go spend $120 on the best steak in the city, but I really want it tonight. That's a cost,
yeah.
and I'm gonna be stressed. I'm gonna be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do
A little
this.
bit
Maybe
of
I
regret
should,
in there. Maybe I shouldn't
but
have done that.
but I'm gonna do it, and I'm not gonna regret having done that. And so the cost is always, uh, I, I guess the only way I can say it is, uh, the juice is always worth the squeeze.
That's exact. Okay, so that's what I is very interesting about your strategy. And this is a relatively common strategy, right? So what I call the way I talk about this strategy is issues showing love. So issue showing love is one of the 6 fundamental strategies that people use to live out their trauma or their strategies of survival. And issue showing love is where I have to suffer and sacrifice in order to show love to another person. And the more I suffer and sacrifice, the more it's worth it. Right? So it's a very selfless way of being, right? The harder it
Yes.
is for you, I bet, the harder it is for you and you see someone get something from your effort, I bet you feel really good, right?
Mm.
You feel good about yourself. If it was
Yes.
really easy, you wouldn't feel as good as if you had to actually work on it, little pain, a little perseverance, right? Am I on target
Yep.
there?
You're completely on point.
Okay, so this one is one of my favorites. You can imagine being a Navy SEAL, like, oh, let's go get tortured and then go to the worst places in the world, right? Like
Right.
those of us that suffer the best are the ones that get rewarded the most in the SEALs, and so that strategy is one of my favorites, right?
Mm-hmm.
What it does though is creates conditional love. What I mean by conditional love is that I have to earn the love, right? So on a fundamental level, the more that I give in order for you to receive, the better I feel. That's a trade. The other thing that shows up for that as a consequence is those of us that do that don't receive very well. So I would imagine you're someone that doesn't feel the most comfortable when people are giving to you. Is that correct or not?
Yeah. Very correct.
Dead on, right? How did
Yep.
I know that? Uh, how dare anyone call me a hero? Like, what? How dare you? Like, no, don't recognize me for what I did. I did it out of honor, right? I did it out of the concern for the group being more for me. So don't give me any credit, right? And it was my obligation. So that creates that lack of receiving creates a one-way flow of love. It's you're allowed to let love flow out of you through your obligation to every single person around you, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not allowed to receive, right? That creates, and this is the kicker. Uh, we believe in general that if I want you to experience my love, my care, I have to do something for you, right? I figure out something Jason wants, he likes. I make sure you get a really good steak dinner tomorrow, right? And then you're going to feel love. But in reality, the way that love works is that it is in the receiving that someone feels the love. So when you receive my gift of a great steak dinner tomorrow night, I get to experience love,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, but think of
Yeah.
then how selfish we are. So you and me, very selfish. We give
Oh yeah.
and we
Yeah.
get to experience the love of others receiving. But when someone shows us love, oh, we can't receive. Don't call me a hero. No, 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 get away. No, I haven't done anything. So
Right.
what we're actually doing is sucking all of the love away from those around us because we don't give them the opportunity to experience the love of showing their love to us and us receiving it. See how that's selfish?
Yeah. Oh, very much. And that's why I'm not ever ashamed or scared to use that word.
Yeah.
I think saying the word selfish is very applicable to
Yeah.
us as individuals in so many ways. And let me put it to you this way and see what you hear from me, because everything you're saying, I keep thinking about this one central point. And we haven't gotten into all the details and everything yet, but I will tell you this: after my injury, I was in a coma for 2.5 months.
Yep.
And then when I came out of that coma, I was blind. I was flat on my back. I couldn't really talk, had lost half my fingers to amputation. I was useless.
Yeah.
And my wife was still there. I was still a dad to 2 at the time. Now I have 3. My parents were there and deeply affected. Why did I get a fire truck on my intersection and all these other officers in these Ford Crown Victorias did not? They deserved the same chance to go home. These are the things that are just always on my mind. And so when people give me the accolades, when people, and you know, if I get accolades and applause because I gave a good presentation, you know what? I'll take that because I work really hard to be a good public speaker. It's not for everybody. I absolutely love being on stage. It's like my second calling. But when it comes to the other things, all the attention that I will get is, I can't help but think about, well, you're not understanding the hundreds of people who lifted me up, who got me to this place of strength and being grounded and being secure
But
in
why,
my
pause there for a minute.
Yep.
Why aren't you worthy of that love that they're showing? Why do you need to pass it off right away?
I think because I feel like I am 2% of my success. People know I was in a very bad accident,
Right.
and I was a police officer, and they just immediately go to, and I mean, I deeply appreciate this about other human beings and the communities that rally around us when something happens. But I think people take for granted. I guess the way I would put it to you is, I love to watch the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I love to watch the Winter Olympics, and the reason is I can't do any of those sports. I grew up in the desert. I can't ski down a mountain. I'm not getting in a bobsled going 60 miles an hour. I can't do all that stuff, right? And it is fascinating to me to watch. And one of the greatest quotes I think I ever heard was Usain Bolt, the greatest runner ever. He said, I worked very hard, had a lot of help, a lot of training, all the I did all that, and all you saw was 9 seconds. of me setting a record, and now I'm the best in the world. That we don't see the the process that got it there, and I'm just always thinking about these other people in my life who got me to where I'm at today. That I get to be the I get to be the
Poster child for it.
the poster child, and it's humbling, and it's sometimes I do have mixed emotions. I mean, I do feel very humbled by it, but then I will also sometimes feel uncomfortable with, again, there's 33 officers that I can name that didn't get a fire truck in the intersection. Well, you don't understand what a rock star my wife is. You don't understand the watching these kids grow and what they've turned into.
So let me pause you though. So you have this person. You are the poster child. You've chosen to be, right, by being on the stage. You offer insights. You offer a view into what it means to live with honor, what it means to carry your obligations, right? You provide that opportunity for an individual in the audience. That individual receives that gift from you, and then they want to express their love, their connection, their gratitude, right,
Yeah,
for that gift that they received. And what I'm hearing you say is that most of the time you block it, right? Meaning it doesn't get to land. Now, you're saying, hey, the reason why is because ultimately that love should be going to other people, should be going to this other police officer from another intersection. It should be going to my wife. It should be going to the doctors. It should be going to, you
yeah,
probably have a list of 1,000 people that you would
yeah,
say it should go to them before me. But you're the conduit to them, right? To block that reception of love from this person who's showing it, that all 1,000 of you have earned, right? Not just you by yourself, but all 1,000 of you have earned that love from that person, and then you're blocking it, as opposed to fully deeply receiving it and then being the conduit to the 1,000 other people. And so ultimately what I'm hearing is that this sense of obligation that has been with you your whole life, which is that core strategy of survival, right? Then you trick yourself into saying, well, because I'm doing it with honor, it's not really obligation, right? Which is okay, right? That's our trick.
yeah,
But the consequence to that is that you actually live in some isolation. You live in some being alone,
yeah, yeah,
right?
for sure,
That's the
for
cost,
sure.
the deep cost, right? And then when even in that alone feeling, right? Because this is what's so crazy about our subconscious strategies. What is the obligation and the honor for? It is to serve the group so you can be part of it. But then
Yeah,
in the stopping of the receiving of the love, you get to be separate, which just drives more obligation and more honor. And so you are an endless supply of, let me get out there, let me hold more obligation, let me live with more honor. But in the stopping of the receiving of the love, you still feel alone. And ultimately, what I'm hearing even in your life, it shows up in that you are alone. You're alone in a bed by yourself in your thoughts, right? You're
sure.
alone in the hotel room, right?
Yeah,
You're thinking about your family, and you can even see in your life how many choices you've made that have created the space of isolation, even if it's perceived isolation, all out of honor and obligation. And so what we see here is the culmination of what I said: superpower, kryptonite, right? So the superpower is to live in that sense of honor and obligation, produces someone like me. Like, man, we're very similar, where we produce, um we leave the seat better than it showed up, right? That's what we do every day, all the time, no matter where we show up. That's a superpower. The kryptonite is we carry the weight alone. We don't get to receive, right? And all that does, it makes sense because then it fuels more honor and obligation. But ultimately, we don't close the circle, right? That full circle of love, right? Where your love produces the honor and the complete sense of I choose these obligations to serve the world receives that and wants to give it back to you, and you're like, no, it's okay. Give it to someone else. I'm just going to stay over here carrying the load. And what it does is block what would be more energy that would flow into service. And so what I'm saying, what I'm seeing this, and the only reason I can see this one quite clearly, this is about 10 minutes into our conversation. I'm like, oh, Jason and Larry, we're very, very similar, right? Is that sense of allowing the love, the care to flow is only going to strengthen your gifts. It's only going to bring more into the world. But ultimately, what I would love to see for you is a greater sense of peace in doing it, right? And I
Yes.
think that's what's possible. So in hearing this, do you think I'm full of crap? Are you seeing what I'm saying? Were you getting any insights into your subconscious strategies of survival?
Yeah, no, we're getting a lot of insights. You're certainly not you're not full of crap. It's a very different way for me to see things. It makes complete sense, especially when you talk about being the conduit, which that's a beautiful thing. Yes, I'm out there making a living for my family. I do love the part of giving to others in the sense of, all right, you get to hit a reset button. You get to figure out your why and remember all the choices you've made of what's made you. This is not a story. And I usually tell people, unless I'm doing a law enforcement training, if I'm doing like yesterday, it was 540 people, business people in Baltimore. And I made sure they understood, look, catching on fire and being a former police officer, the two least important parts of this story. That's not what we're here. I mean, it is my story, and I'm going to share what happened to me, but there's a whole lot more to my life and the strategies I have of resilience and love and being vulnerable, all the things that we need to make us strong. But I do a lot of times feel alone, isolated, and I they don't hurt. They don't.
Well, yeah, because you and I are going to use that as fuel to do more
Yes.
good. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But that's limiting. What I want to open for you in this is because I get so excited in this specific moment with you, in that if we open this up for you, you're going to bring 10 times more into the world, because the energy is not going to be coming from you alone. It's going to flow through you, right? To be able to think of how much energy, positive energy, love, connection, awareness, that exists in that room of 540 people when you're done doing your job well. That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if all of that energy, you were able to just receive 10% of it. What's that going to result in the next time?
Yeah.
Right? So being able to close this loop, right, where the energy isn't just coming from Jason into the world, which has already produced amazing stuff, to be able to connect it to others is going to create, I get so excited because it's going to create so much peace for you, and it's going to create 10 times more impact in the world. How does that feel?
That feels really good. And when I reflect on, again, I used yesterday as an example because it's so fresh and new, but I had two people, very emotional, that actually said the one compliment. And I don't ever tell people what this one compliment is, because then everybody's going to say it. And
so we'll make sure that we edit this out.
It becomes less meaningful.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I do love when people come up and say, "Hey, I lost my brother a couple years ago in a plane crash, and I appreciate that they say that and tell me I got a lot out of your talk today. And but then I can also relate to them because I lost my brother-in-law
Yes.
a couple of years ago in a tragic accident, and then somebody else might say they might be so vulnerable they'll say I was just diagnosed with cancer and I haven't even found a way to tell my family yet.
Mm-hmm.
And you've opened my eyes to so I do let that stuff come in, and it provides me so much more motivation to I can't wait to get back out on the road. I mean, I've got just next week I'm going to Nashville, New York, Dayton, Ohio, and the Ozarks. I'm looking forward to all of these because I do take that energy, and it makes me want to do it more. I don't want to be in isolation. I think the isolation and the loneliness that I spoke of is like when you come off this ultimate high, right? You know you're on stage. I'm reminding myself, like, wow, that really did happen. This story is real. Look at these pictures, and I get to brag about my family and the firefighters and officers and doctors and everybody who saved my life. And like, I don't even need an airplane to get home. I can fly home. These are the wind beneath my wings. But then you have to be really careful on how you come down from that high, because now I'm going to the airport. Now I'm gonna deal with whatever I am. It took me, I don't know, a total of 12 hours, I guess, to get home,
Yep.
dealing with 2 airports, delays. And I'm sure you know, if you want to see the worst of humanity, just go to the airport.
Yeah,
Because
I unfortunately have had a
that,
similar life to you. I've been changing it over just the
that's where
last
it
couple
is.
months,
Yeah.
but I'm with you.
People people will always show the worst sides of themselves at the airport, and I don't understand it. But I get on those flights, or sit there having a beer and a burger, and might talk to somebody, might have my headphones on. It just kind of depends on what I'm very present with myself. So what emotions I'm feeling, what is going to work for me. But it's when you come down from that, as I'm sure you experienced, on a deployment, and then to come back to what's normal to you, not what everybody else is seeing and saying and hearing about. What's normal to you, you have to be somewhat strategic in how you manage that roller coaster that you're going to go through when you have these lives of giving and providing and serving
Well, and that's where
versus
I think we have opportunity. We have the opportunity now to be able to take more of that energy that was offered, right, in the speech and after, and be able to connect to it in between the sessions, right? How do you keep not necessarily the adrenaline high of successfully doing a big speech, right? Like I get that, and that's fine. But how can we live not in the regret, the drive to do it again, right? And more into the to reconnecting to feeling that energy, the positivity that comes into it. And I think what will connect well with you is that to be a conduit of it. So in that airport, how can you connect to the positive energy that was in the audience? Bring it in and then send it out to the 1,000 people that supported you, really seeing if we can connect that circle, right? In those times of being alone, instead of, I was and very much still struggle to not be like you, where I want to isolate, right? And it's a subconscious level to want to kind of isolate, be alone, be in my own head, versus the flow, that connection to others is universally available to us. Like at any point in time, we can. You're lucky that you get glimpses of it more than most people, but that that experience is possible for us at all points in our life. And so that would be the biggest thing I would see that could come out of this conversation was, okay, keeping in your mind that it isn't just from Jason out, right? It's from Jason out, and then it's to receive it back and then send it out again. That vision of closing that circle is, I think, the opportunity that we found here in this call, right? Was to be able to leverage the power of the universe, God, love, as opposed to our own energy to create, to serve, to be able to live with honor and fulfill our obligations. That's
Yeah.
what if there's anything, I was like, okay, what's our morsel this time? It's that. And when we think of that from a bigger perspective, how many people have you seen that do everything out of their own obligation, their own energy, and how they get tired, right? Where they live in isolation even though they have people all around them. And so
Sure.
this same thing exists, the same problem or strategy exists for many, many people.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That makes a lot of sense.
So,
A lot of
so good work. And what I love about this, my work is very focused on the actual experience you went through is the least important thing, just like you said,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's the least important thing. What is important is what the lessons that we learned and carried forward from it, the untruths that may have been developed in it. And when we're able to bring those untruths to light and find what I refer to as the capital T truth in the lesson, that capital T truth benefits the entire world. And it's through our courage of exploring the lessons that we actually bring that benefit into the world. And so this is a great example of, for the first time, I had someone on the show that has this big traumatic experience, and we didn't talk about it once. And I'm very proud of that. Like, we got some really good stuff out of this. I'd say best stuff we could get out of this. And we didn't even have to go into the normal show.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't have to just sit here and talk about myself and
Yeah.
in a way that, like, here's what happened. Here's the
Yeah.
timeline, and there's so
Here's
much
the
to
lessons that
that.
I learned. Like, ultimately, it was
Yeah.
your untruth that you brought forward that was the biggest lesson for you, for me, and for
Yeah, very
the
much.
audience. And so
Very much.
that is right down the center line of my work, because what I found in most of the healing, the post-traumatic stress, PTSD treatments I went through, is mostly about the getting rid of the emotional charge of the experience, which ultimately just was harder. Like, it didn't really help much. And that's why I developed this process, to be able to unearth the real jewels from the experience without being distracted by the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
There's a
good
lot
work, man.
of new insights, a lot of things to think about in ways that I haven't, and I look forward to
Playing
being
with
able to reflect on this a
Yeah.
lot.
So my challenge to you is the next night, right, that you're laying in bed, and you
Mm-hmm.
start to go through the analysis of, how can I make it better? What could I have done better? What do I have to do? What am I doing tomorrow? All that stuff. The next time that comes in, if you could make the commitment to me now, I'd say I'd be very excited to be able to recognize, oh, there it is, and then from there connect back into the love that was shown to you at some point, maybe in your last speech, or from your child, or from your wife.
Yes.
Connect into that, feel it, and then send it out to the 1,000 people that have supported you.
Yeah.
If you can commit to that, I would be very excited.
I will 100% commit to that.
Good. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to check on you, and next time I come to Phoenix, we're getting a steak.
All right. Please, please do. Please do. You let me know when you're here. I'll take you to my favorite place.
I love it. Is there anything you would like to leave the audience with? And this is the great opportunity for our audience. They'll come and check you out, I'm sure. But Jason has so much to offer beyond the conversation we had today. And so, is there anything you'd like to share with the audience? Final thoughts, places to see you, anything you want to share with them?
I think I would just leave the audience with something because I've had such a wonderful support system and so much help in my life. I've allowed myself, both by choice and not by choice, to be uh, very vulnerable, and I think that has given me a tremendous amount of strength and help build my resilience. And within that, I want to remind people, no matter what you go through, blaming others, seeing yourself as a victim, it only holds you back. And when you think about who loves you and who supports you, it's always harder to watch somebody you love go through something than to go through it yourself. And please remember, don't bleed on people who did not cut you. If they're there to help you and love you and support you, then allow them to do that for you.
That is a perfect bow on the topic that we talked about today, right? That it is in the receiving of another's love that they get to experience ours. And so, thank you for that beautiful bow on this package. And thank you for coming on to the show. So much fun. And
thank you. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode. If you want to check out the other episodes, if there's any other places that we can support you, and we also offer the opportunity for our listeners to come onto the show to explore their subconscious strategies to survival. So check us out at truepathmastery.com, and if you want to join us on this and do a deep dive like Jason and I did today, just reach out to us. Thank you for supporting the show.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Jason brought honesty, perspective, and real-world wisdom to this conversation in ways that challenge all of us to think deeper, lead better, and live more intentionally. If something in today's episode spoke to you, don't just move on from it. Sit with it, share it, apply it, because awareness without action changes nothing. And as always, thank you for being a part of this growing community committed to truth, growth, and transformation. Make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it at truepathmastery.com/podcast. We'll see you next time. And as always, live in truth. Capital